Ever wondered where the world's most dangerous cities are hiding? You know, the places where walking down the street feels like you're starring in your very own action thriller? Well, buckle up, because today we're counting down the top 10 most dangerous cities in the world for 2024. Whether you're a thrill seeker, an adventure junkie, or just someone who prefers their excitement from the safety of their couch, this list is for you. Trust me, these cities are not the places you'll want to add to your bucket list, unless you're into dodging bullets and outmaneuvering pickpockets. So let's dive in. Number 10, Cape Town, South Africa. Cape Town, a city known for its stunning landscapes, world-class wine, and its sky-high crime rates. Surprise! This South African gem is also a bit of a nightmare after dark. Cape Town's got a little bit of everything. Robberies, assaults, and a murder rate that's among the highest in the world. With about 66 homicides per 100,000 people, it's a place where you might want to invest in some personal security. The police here? Let's just say they're a bit overwhelmed. With organized crime running rampant, you'd think the local authorities would be more on top of things. But nope, corruption is pretty much par for the course. Poverty and unemployment, off the charts. Cape Town's sprawling townships are a breeding ground for crime, with a stark contrast between the haves and have-nots that would make even the most optimistic person shake their head. Hospitals, overloaded, housing, scarce. Emergency services? Better pray they're not stuck in traffic if you're in trouble. Infrastructure here is like a patchwork quilt, full of holes. While South Africa isn't exactly falling apart, the lingering effects of apartheid and political corruption don't help matters. Tensions run high, and that adds fuel to the fire. Cape Town's had a violent past, and unfortunately it doesn't seem like the future's looking any rosier. The crime rate's been on a roller coaster, but let's be honest, it's been mostly downhill. Compared to the rest of our list, Cape Town's got that deadly combination of beauty and danger like a black widow spider. Gorgeous to look at, just don't get too close. Locals? They're cautious but resilient. Tourists? Let's just say the smart ones know to keep their valuables out of sight and their wits about them. So why does Cape Town kick off our list? It's the classic case of a stunning city with a dark side, a place where you need more than sunscreen to stay safe. Number 9, San Pedro Sula, Honduras. If you're in San Pedro Sula, congrats, you're in one of the most dangerous places in the Western Hemisphere. This city's crime stats could make even the bravest adventurer think twice. With a homicide rate that's been as high as 86 per 100,000, San Pedro Sula has been dubbed the murder capital of the world, more times than it cares to admit. Violent crime? Yeah, that's pretty much an everyday occurrence. The gangs here practically run the place. MS-13, anyone? The police are outnumbered, outgunned, and let's be honest, out of ideas. Poverty, unemployment, and inequality? Check, check, and check. The lack of opportunities drives people to desperate measures, and it shows. Healthcare? A joke? Housing? Let's just say subpar is putting it nicely. If you need help, well, good luck. Emergency services are about as reliable as a broken watch. Political unrest and corruption go hand in hand here. The government's grip is as loose as a toddler's on a toy, and that's not doing the city any favors. San Pedro Sula's history is marred by violence, and it doesn't look like that's changing anytime soon. The city's been struggling with crime for decades, and the battle's far from over. Compared to other cities on this list, San Pedro Sula is like the Wild West, only with less law and more chaos. The locals are hardened by the constant threat of danger, while visitors are often advised to steer clear, unless they're looking to test their luck. San Pedro Sula lands at number 9 for a reason. It's a place where danger lurks around every corner, and the line between survival and disaster is razor thin. Number 8, Acapulco, Mexico. You might know Acapulco as a glamorous beach resort, but these days it's more notorious for something far less relaxing: crime. A sun-soaked danger zone? You bet. Once a Hollywood hotspot, Acapulco's murder rate now hovers around 70 per 100,000. And we're not talking about petty theft here. Violent crimes, including kidnappings and murders, are unfortunately common. Cartels have pretty much turned Acapulco into their playground. The police? Let's just say they're not the most effective team in town, and that's being generous. Poverty and inequality are rampant, with vast wealth gaps fueling resentment and crime. The contrast between the luxury resorts and the struggling neighborhoods is like night and day. The city's infrastructure might be built for tourists, but that doesn't help the locals much. Emergency services are slow, and the healthcare system isn't exactly top-notch. Corruption is a big issue, with cartels exerting more control than the government in some areas. It's a city where the law often feels like an optional extra. Acapulco wasn't always this dangerous. It used to be the playground of the rich and famous, but those days are long gone. Now it's more famous for its crime stats than its sunsets. Compared to other tourist destinations, Acapulco's like a beautiful but deadly snake. Tempting to touch, but dangerous if you get too close. Tourists still flock here, but they're more likely to stay within the confines of their resorts. Locals, meanwhile, are all too aware of the dangers that lurk beyond the beach. Acapulco might be famous for its beauty, but it's infamous for its danger. It's a place where the sand's as hot as the crime rate, and that's saying something. Number 7, Caracas, Venezuela. Next up, Caracas, Venezuela's capital, and a city that makes the phrase living on the edge a daily reality. If there's one thing Caracas doesn't lack, it's danger. Caracas regularly ranks as one of the world's most dangerous cities, with a murder rate hovering around 99 per 100,000. And if that's not enough, armed robberies and kidnappings are part of everyday life here. Police and military presence is strong, but so is corruption. The result? A city where the line between law enforcement and criminals is often blurred. Venezuela's economic collapse has hit Caracas hard. Poverty and hyperinflation have driven crime through the roof, with desperate people doing desperate things. The healthcare system is in shambles, and basic services are unreliable at best. Power outages are common, and emergency services are stretched thin. Caracas is a city caught in the middle of Venezuela's ongoing political crisis. Protests and clashes with security forces are frequent, adding another layer of danger to an already volatile situation. Caracas has a long history of violence, but things have gotten worse in recent years. The city's crime rate has skyrocketed, driven by economic collapse and political instability. Compared to other cities on our list, Caracas is a ticking time bomb, unpredictable and deadly. It's a city where you never know what's around the corner, but you can bet it's nothing good. For locals, danger is just a part of life. For visitors, Caracas is a place to be avoided unless you have a very good reason and a security detail. Caracas takes the number 7 spot with a mix of economic despair, political chaos, and rampant crime. It's a city where danger isn't just a possibility, it's a guarantee. Number 6, Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. Coming in at number 6 is Port Moresby, a city that proves even paradise can have its dark side. If you thought an island getaway sounded peaceful, think again. With a violent crime rate that would make most people shudder, Port Moresby isn't for the faint of heart. Murders, armed robberies, and carjackings are all part of the daily grind here. The police force is underfunded, undertrained, and overwhelmed. Gangs known as rascals run amok, making the streets unsafe at almost any hour. Poverty is rampant, and unemployment rates are through the roof. The lack of economic opportunities fuels the crime rate, turning the city into a pressure cooker ready to explode. The infrastructure is basic at best. Hospitals are overcrowded, public transport is unreliable, and emergency services, well, they'll get to you eventually if you're lucky. Papua New Guinea's political situation is relatively stable, but Port Moresby's lawlessness makes it feel like the Wild West. Corruption is common, and the government's control over the city is tenuous at best. Port Moresby's history is one of conflict and struggle, and that legacy lives on today. The city's crime problem has been escalating for years, with no end in sight. Compared to other cities on this list, Port Moresby might not be the most famous, but it's definitely one of the most dangerous. It's like a hidden shark in calm waters, unexpected and lethal. For locals, life in Port Moresby is a daily battle. For visitors, it's a place to tread carefully, if at all. Port Moresby earns its place at number 6 with a combination of high crime, low opportunity, and a level of danger that's hard to beat. It's a city where paradise meets peril, and peril usually wins. Number 5, Guayana, Venezuela. Welcome to Guayana, Venezuela, a city that might not be on everyone's radar, but definitely should be if we're talking danger. If Caracas wasn't enough, Venezuela's got another city for us on this list. Guayana, like its Venezuelan sibling, is plagued by high crime rates, particularly homicides and kidnappings. The murder rate here? A staggering 78 per 100,000 people. Crime's practically the city's middle name. The police force in Guayana is as effective as a screen door on a submarine. Pretty much useless. Corruption is rampant, and law enforcement is outmanned and outgunned by criminal gangs. Economic despair runs deep in Guayana. Poverty and unemployment are sky high, fueling the crime that's made this city infamous. Basic services are in a sorry state. Healthcare, good luck. Public services practically non-existent. It's a city where infrastructure is more of a concept than a reality. The political situation in Guyana is a mess, much like the rest of Venezuela. Government control is weak, and the city's a hotspot for protests and civil unrest. Guyana's history is one of violence and neglect, a pattern that continues to this day. The city's crime rate has been on a steady rise with no signs of improvement. Compared to Caracas, Guyana might seem like a lesser-known sibling, but it's just as dangerous. Maybe even more so, considering how under the radar it flies. For those who live there, danger is just part of the daily routine. For anyone else, it's a place to avoid like the plague. Guyana slides into the number 5 spot with a lethal mix of high crime, poor governance, and a failing economy. It's a city where safety is a luxury most can't afford. Number 4, Fortaleza, Brazil. Fortaleza, Brazil, where the beaches are breathtaking and so are the crime rates. It's a city that's as dangerous as it is beautiful, earning its place at number 4 on our list. Fortaleza's murder rate is around 69 per 100,000, and it's not just homicides that are a problem. Violent crimes like muggings, kidnappings, and assaults are rampant, especially in tourist areas. The police presence in Fortaleza is more show than substance. Gangs have a stronghold in many neighborhoods, and corruption within law enforcement is a major issue. Poverty and inequality are the city's twin demons, driving a crime rate that's among the highest in Brazil. The gap between rich and poor is wide, and it's not getting any narrower. Public services are strained to the limit. Hospitals are overcrowded, and the public transport system is unreliable at best. Emergency services? They'll get there, eventually. Brazil's political situation doesn't help Fortaleza's crime problem. Corruption and inefficiency are widespread, making it difficult to enforce the law effectively. Fortaleza has a long history of crime, and recent years have seen an uptick in violence. The city's crime wave shows no sign of slowing down, making it one of the most dangerous places in Brazil. Compared to other cities on our list, Fortaleza is like a beautiful yet deadly siren, luring you in with its charm before pulling you under. Locals are all too familiar with the dangers, while tourists are often caught off guard by how quickly paradise can turn perilous. Fortaleza might look like a tropical paradise, but its crime rate makes it anything but. It's a city where the sun might be shining, but you'll want to keep your guard up. Number 3, St. Louis, Missouri, USA. St. Louis, Missouri, home of the Gateway Arch, the Blues, and unfortunately, some of the highest crime rates in the United States. If you're looking for danger stateside, this is where you'll find it. St. Louis consistently ranks as one of the most dangerous cities in America, with a homicide rate of 87 per 100,000. Violent crimes, including assaults and armed robberies, are disturbingly common. The police force in St. Louis is stretched thin, and while they're trying their best, the crime rate shows no signs of slowing down. The city's gang problem is a major contributing factor. Poverty, unemployment, and racial inequality are deeply entrenched in St. Louis, driving the city's high crime rate. The divide between the affluent and the impoverished is stark, and it's fueling resentment and violence. Public services are struggling to keep up with the city's needs. Hospitals are overburdened, and the public transport system is unreliable. If you need emergency services, you might be in for a long wait. St. Louis has its share of political challenges, including issues with corruption and inefficiency. These problems make it difficult to address the root causes of the city's crime problem. St. Louis has a long history of violence, dating back to its days as a frontier town. Unfortunately, that legacy of violence continues today, with no end in sight. Compared to other cities on this list, St. Louis is a reminder that danger isn't just something that happens far away, it's right here in our own backyard. For locals, St. Louis is home, but it's also a place where caution is a daily necessity. For visitors, the city's reputation is well known, and it's often a destination to avoid. St. Louis lands at number 3 on our list with a mix of high crime, deep-seated inequality, and a history of violence that's hard to shake. It's a city where the American dream feels more like a nightmare. Number 2, Juárez, Mexico. Welcome to Juárez, Mexico. Once known as the murder capital of the world, and still holding on to that reputation for good reason. If you're looking for danger, you've come to the right place. Juárez has a murder rate of about 104 per 100,000, making it one of the deadliest cities on the planet. Violence is a way of life here, with drug cartels and gangs ruling the streets. The police in Juárez are outgunned and outnumbered by the cartels. Corruption is rampant, and it's hard to tell where the law ends and the criminals begin. Juárez is a city in economic despair. Poverty and unemployment are widespread, driving people into the arms of the cartels, who offer money and power in exchange for loyalty. and violence. Public services in Juárez are almost non-existent. Hospitals are overwhelmed, and emergency services are a last resort rather than a reliable option. The city's infrastructure is crumbling under the weight of its problems. Mexico's ongoing battle with the cartels is at its fiercest in Juárez. The government's grip on the city is tenuous, with violence and corruption undermining any attempts at stability. Juárez has a long history of violence, but things took a turn for the worse in the 2000s, when the city became a battleground for the cartels. Since then, Juárez has struggled to shake its reputation as a city where death is always just around the corner. Compared to other cities on this list, Juárez is in a league of its own when it comes to violence. It's a place where life is cheap and danger is part of the daily routine. For those who live there, Juárez is a city where survival is an achievement. For outsiders, it's a place to avoid at all costs, unless you have a death wish. Juárez takes the number 2 spot with a lethal mix of cartel violence, economic despair, and a government that's lost control. It's a city where danger is the rule, not the exception. Number 1, Tegucigalpa, Honduras. And finally, the crown jewel of danger, Tegucigalpa, Honduras. If you thought the rest of the cities on this list were bad, Tegucigalpa is here to show you how it's done. Tegucigalpa's murder rate is a staggering 112 per 100,000, making it the most dangerous city in the world. From gang violence to armed robberies, this city's got it all, and none of it good. The police here, they're doing their best, but it's a losing battle. Gangs run the streets, and corruption is so widespread that it's practically part of the city's culture. Tegucigalpa is a city trapped in poverty, with unemployment rates through the roof. The lack of economic opportunities fuels the city's crime wave, turning it into a war zone. Public services are almost non-existent. Hospitals are overrun, public transport is unreliable, and emergency services are a roll of the dice. The city's infrastructure is crumbling under the weight of its problems. Honduras is one of the most politically unstable countries in Central America, and Tegucigalpa is its chaotic epicenter. The government's grip on the city is weak, with corruption and violence undermining any attempts at stability. Tegucigalpa has a long history of violence, but in recent years, things have gotten worse. The city's crime rate has skyrocketed, making it the most dangerous place in the world. Compared to other cities on this list, Tegucigalpa is in a league of its own. It's a city where danger is the norm, and survival is the exception. For those who live there, Tegucigalpa is a place where danger is just part of life. For visitors, it's a place to avoid at all costs, unless you're looking for trouble. Tegucigalpa earns the top spot on our list with a lethal mix of gang violence, economic despair, and a government that's lost control. It's a city where danger is the rule, not the exception. So there you have it, the top 10 most dangerous cities in the world for 2024. Whether you're a thrill seeker or just someone who values their safety, these are the places to watch out for. Remember, danger might be exciting in the movies, but in real life, not so much. Stay safe out there, folks. And if you're ever in one of these cities, maybe just stick to the hotel bar. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below, unless you're too busy planning your next, safer adventure. And hey, if you've got a city you think should have made the list, let us know. For more unique travel tales and expert tips, stick with your friends Dennis and Becca, and make sure to browse our channel for more engaging videos. Until next time, safe travels and be kind to all.